Indian proverb says, "Tell me a fact and I will learn. Tell me the truth and I will believe. But tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever." Good evening, everyone. I am Prakhar Garg, your host for today's webinar on storytelling in education. Storytelling is the oldest form of teaching. It bonded the early human communities, giving children the answer to the biggest question of creation, life, and afterlife. Our brains are hardwired to think and express in terms of the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's how we understand the world. Thus, anything told in the form of a story may very well, define us, shape us, control us, and make us. There are many ways to use storytelling in education. Stories could be told by teacher or by the students. It's an exponential constructivist learning often used in the affective learning domain of Bloom's taxonomy and is commonly used in transformative education. Today, we will talk about how we can utilize storytelling in teaching and what are its benefits. But first, I would like to introduce our guest today, a writer, a storyteller, and an education, peace, and cultural specialist, Ms. Shaguna Gehlot. Shaguna is an expert in arts education and peace and culture community-based program. She has spent several years training and developing teachers, training material and resources for children, some together with NCERT. She has served in various national and international organizations, including the Indian National Trust for Art and Culture Heritage, INTACT as we know it, United Nations Education Scientific Cultural Organization, UNESCO, National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, NCPCR, Medicine Sans Frontiers, MSF, Embassy of Belgium, and British Council, where she was the head of literature and art programs, an oral storyteller, and the co-author of Curious Tales from the Himalayas, published by the Bengal Random House. She also co-curated Ghumakkad Narayan, the Traveling Literature Festival, now in its 13th edition, and Kathakar, the International Storytellers Festival. We welcome you, Shaguna. It's an honor to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Prakhar. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm happy that I can finally be here. I'm so sorry I wasted so much time due to technology, but let's make the most of it. So thank you.
So moving on. So Shaguna, to begin with, please tell us, how did you start in your journey of being a storyteller?
Well, yes, yeah. I mean, given the introduction you just, kind of told the audience, I'm sure they're wondering that where does the whole storytelling fits in here? If you've been with so many organizations. Yes. Well, I think there's a storyteller in all of us. It's something that starts very early with all of us. When you're a kid, I mean, if it's not in the school, certainly at home, you are told stories and something that engages you. And you listen to those stories, you tell them to your friends, you tell them to your maybe siblings, younger siblings, and everybody is telling a story. Whether you're coming home and telling your parents what happened in school, you're telling a story. So I think there's a storyteller in all of us. But if we talk about my professional journey, how did I, start telling stories as a profession or as going up on stage and telling people rather than just my family and friends. I think that happened a lot later, around, I think, 2004, when my nephew, Raghavendra was born. And I started telling stories to him and he quite enjoyed it. And that was around the same time when, I was working with the organizations that you mentioned in culture. And one saw that there was, this whole disconnect between the younger generation and the folk stories that were there. And one started collecting those stories, and you couldn't just put them in a box. So, you knew kind of that you have to share these stories. So we went on a hunt for looking for these storytellers, and India has a whole lot of them. And, it's very varied across the country. You'll have shadow puppeteering, you'll have somebody doing it in a very dramatic form. What I really liked out of all of that was what is more or less usually called the grandma's tales, the Dadi Nani ki kahaniyan. But that's also a format that existed with the travelers. When these travelers were traveling from different countries, they were storytellers who would, come to a common venue. So if you're traveling as merchants, you would need some entertainment in the evening wherever you kind of rested. And these are the people who were telling stories from different parts of the world. And that's the form that I really liked. And I started experimenting with that. And started, of course, like I said, starting at home, then started with some, workshops that we were doing, then graduated to schools, and of course, later on to festivals and other cultural institutions as well. So it's been a long journey and learning all the way, but that's how it has been. Yes.
Wonderful journey, wonderful journey. So let's just move into the questions. So I would like to ask you when and how we can utilize storytelling in our education.
Well, yes, your session is kind of based on education, but storytelling is something you can use everywhere, and it kind of is that what is kind of your icebreaker. So if you're in a group or anything, use a story, it works. But if we talk about education, I think it's one of the most powerful tools that we have. You have kids, with very kind of backgrounds. You have kids with different kind of intelligence. Some are quick, some are, will take some time to get it. Some are not interested, not because they're just dumb, but just because you can't catch their interest. And stories can really, really get, people involved and these children involved. And children love stories. You can use it anywhere and everywhere in education, any subject, so to say. Yeah, I mean that's you can use it. Yeah, primarily. I mean, basically from nursery up to, I'd still say you can use it till class 12th. I mean, you've been to Kathakar. You see how grown-ups come to listen to stories, and you can use it as a tool to just kind of start a conversation, or you can use it to take it forward. So if you're introducing a topic in education, you can use it. Start with a story, and otherwise, if you want to, if you think it's a very long lecture and children will get bored or something, so you can have a small story, in your pocket, which you can use, midway when your class is going to fall asleep. Or, leave a thought as a story with them, when you're finishing a topic or a theme or a class, and leave that story, which is kind of thought-provoking, and they can go back and think about it. A very powerful tool, I'd say, in education.
Very true, very true. I think it's not specific to start maybe just with a story. You can actually take it along with your topic of discussion or the concept, the idea that you are trying to give to the kids, the students. And obviously you can use it in the beginning, in the middle, or maybe in the end. Obviously to leave them with some thoughts, some own kind of their own interpretation, what they interpret from it, and they can also grow from it in terms of if the idea is at level 5, level 6, they can even take it to the next stage of 7, 8 or something like that.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Great. So we have talked about, you were talking about when teachers are telling a story. So how about students telling stories? Will it be good for their learning?
Yes, I do believe so. Children telling a story is actually very important, because when we talk about education, there are a few things that they need to know. One, of course, they need to have better learning skills or listening skills, but at the same time, they should also have that communication. They should be able to communicate with others, and storytelling can really help with that. It's a tool to also teach children how to communicate. Because when you're also telling a story, you'll have to have a structure in your mind. Are you starting? What are you telling in the end? How are you ending? And that's what you do when you're talking about yourself. Even if it's something like I have to go and introduce myself in an interview, you'll have to be having a story about yourself there. So if you use storytelling with children and tell them to tell a story, that will help them with their communication skills. Of course, they will enhance their knowledge depending on what topic are you giving them to tell a story about. But it's very important that it's not just one way living, that only teachers are telling stories. You also need to get children to kind of tell stories or share stories, and you'll be surprised how interested children are to tell stories. They really want to do that. If I go tell a story in an audience, invariably children will say that, "Ma'am, I also have a story. Can I tell a story?" So they love to do that, and you need to give them that space.
That is absolutely brilliant, actually. So the next question is I would like you to maybe, if it's possible, to list. I know there are multiple benefits of storytelling in teaching, but maybe if you can list down top 3 benefits, and what are those benefits of using storytelling in education?
So I definitely say that there's communication skills that you learn from storytelling. The other is that you learn listening skills. from storytelling, because I think especially in today's day and age, listening skills are very important, because everybody wants to tell their point of view, and nobody is ready to listen to what the other person has to say. Especially all the social media, everybody is just giving up their gyan, not ready to listen to another person. So two is listening skills, communication skills, and of course the knowledge that you gain from them by listening or by sharing. So those are the three major benefits that you have in storytelling.
Thank you for listing those out. So if you have to also list down some of the challenges that could come up while trying to teach with the help of a story.
So what challenges that one may face is I think it starts from right at the beginning, developing a story, because a lot of times we all feel, and even as a storyteller who's been doing this for a while, that I know the story, I can tell this story, but it doesn't work like that. You really have to develop the plot. That necessary, and people do it differently. Some people will write it down and have a whole script and go by that. The others might just want to put it in their head and kind of go through it many times over till they're firm of what steps they're following. But if you want to tell a good story, you need to have it very, very clear in your head. What is the story that you're telling? So that's your first hurdle. I mean, just knowing the story doesn't mean you can go and tell it. The other is that you need to practice it, with yourself, with a group. I mean, maybe you'll have to just start with yourself, then share it with a few people and see how it's working. Even the first time when you start telling that story, you would find where your issue of telling that story is itself. If I'm telling about, say, even Mahatma Gandhi, and I'm telling about his childhood, and there's a point I feel that the audience needs to know the name of their friend. If I'm saying his friend did this, his friend did this, how many times will you use this, the friend? You will have to kind of say that his friend Manik said that. So when you also practice that story, you would know where all you need to fill the gaps. So your hurdles are that basically get your story absolutely right in your head, in your script, where whatever you're doing, and then practice it before going and sharing it with the audience. And then the third thing would be the reaction you get, because your audience is going to be different, I'm assuming. You might be doing it with children, you might be doing it with adults, have a bit of humor in it or something, but that might change with your audience. So have your audience in mind, who are you telling this story to, get their reaction. So maybe the first time you tell a story, you might get certain things wrong, but make sure you are taking that feedback, trying to also observe what people have enjoyed and not enjoyed, so that next time at least you can, do it better or do it differently, so to say.
So I think that answers the question of few of our audience that were asking if you could help us with some of the pointers that could be helpful in telling a story effectively. I think you have already answered that question over there. So thank you for pointing those out. There's another question that I guess a lot of audience are asking in terms of Shashi Prabha about some examples, and Rudra MKS. A lot of people are asking this question. I'll kind of collate the question for you. Is every different subject have different way of kind of different stories which student can understand. Even the age group is different for different kind of stories. So how should a faculty choose a story? If you can maybe help us with example, maybe let's do it in two part and say how should I choose a story when teaching students of different maybe technical or complex subjects like mathematics and science. How should I choose a story for that?
Okay, right. Yes, we kind of agree that you can use storytelling in all the subjects and across all ages. So yes, that stands. You can use the storytelling in all subjects, including, like you said, mathematics. It doesn't, a lot of times, because when you say storytelling, people say equal to history. And that's not true, because everything has a story. So if you're talking about mathematics, in fact, I remember I was from CBSE and we used to have one big fat mathematics book. I'm forgetting who had kind of authored it. But at the end of every chapter, whatever you were studying, whether it was Pythagoras theorem or you were doing, HCF, LCM, there was always a story about the mathematician or something to do with that topic. And those are very interesting. I think I learned about Aryabhatta and Ramanujan, through those kind of boxes that they've done one pages. I don't think any of my teachers ever used it. They never told us any story of a mathematician. And maybe that's one of the reasons why a lot of children are not interested in mathematics. If you can kind of tell them something little more interesting than just telling them this is the method of getting to a point, and this is right and that's wrong. If you can help them connect with the subject or with the person behind it, they'll probably be more interested in the subject, even if they continue to not do very well in a subject like that. So share a story, I'd say. If you're talking about like in science, they would say that if you're doing any of the principles, also talk about the scientists behind that. And sometimes that stays. So I certainly feel that you should use some stories.
Great. So like if you're talking about, I remember learning mathematics, especially for kindergarten kids, so maybe like the kids who are like learning basic addition, subtraction. The basic question was like you're having a set of say 10 apples and you're going someplace, and in between you find a friend, you gave him two apples, and then you find another one, you gave him 4 apples. How many are there in the end? So is that what you call a story, Mohammed, while doing the mathematics?
Yes, if you're teaching addition and subtraction, yes, that's very much in the primary school. You can make it very interesting, and what you can do is you can actually use names from your own group of children that you have in the class. So if you have like a Sarika and Alpana and Ruchi, so you can say Radhika, Ruchi and Sarika were going one day on a picnic and they had 5 apples with them. They took out 5 and 2 were rotten. So how many are left? So there's always a recall, and this is a very simple story. I'm telling you, you can make it more complex. So suddenly, because those are names that it's part of the group, they will be interested to remember. And then 5 minus 2, there 2 are rotten, 3 are left. Can they all still eat? They'll say yes, we have 3 of them. We can take 1 each. So it's a simple way of telling a story, but you can make it complex. Yes. So what I'm saying is that you can on what class you're referring to. If it's a very little kids, you can make the story structure very simple. 3 people going on a picnic, 2 don't come, how many are left, kind of thing. But if you go on to higher classes, you can make it more complicated. That on the way they met Sagar and they met Chandan, and they came with 4 packets of chips, and now how many do they have? And when they go, 2 people want to have chips and 1 person wants to have ice cream. So you can keep complicating that story as you go, but that structure you will have to see depending on which class are you talking to and how much complex mathematics they can do. Yes, because it's also about how much you can remember, because to a child you have to tell a very simple story. You can't complicate it too much because they tend to forget if you have too many twists and turns. But with an older audience, you can always tell them a very complicated story.
Can you give me some example of choosing a story when we are trying to teach, say, someone in their senior years, say something like 10th grade, 8th grade, maybe 11th grade as well?
On you still sticking to mathematics, or you just talking about any subject now?
Any subject, for example, for now, because obviously there's a lot of big combination coming in mathematics, grade, say 10th, mathematics grade 7. There would be a lot of combinations that would come, but any kind of a standard example if you can give.
Yeah, in fact, in 10th grade, even in 9th grade, that's a very important time when kids are actually deciding, what they're going to do in the future, and a lot of times kids are deciding what they want to do in the future is because, my friend wants to do medicine or my father is an engineer, that's how they decide mostly, because a lot of schools won't have counseling sessions. So that's the time, if a teacher is really interested and wants the kids to be interested in this subject, they can introduce stories of people. So if you want children to take up history and become a historian, you can talk about a historian, how they started reading history, or you talk about, archaeologists, what is the life of an archaeologist, and pick anyone, you can take a Britisher, who came into India to just kind of, look at kind of what is existing, but how he got interested into all the monuments that were there in the country, and how he, got extra grants to, make a team and went into deep jungles, excavating temples like Khajuraho, and what goes into it. You have to camp at that place for months and, digging, and how you have to dig. and what do you unearth, and how do you then put it down on paper and publish it as a research paper. And if you tell that story of that person interestingly, you'll have a lot of children interested in that subject. They will also come to know about a new profession that you can take. History is not about just becoming a teacher at the end of it. You can become an archaeologist like that. Similarly, you can pick up, if you're talking about physics and chemistry and biology or mathematics, pick up the stories of the people. And you don't always have to take ancient people. You can talk about, the women mathematician, who've been getting awarded, talk about that, because you also need to encourage a lot of women in sciences. So talk about them, talk about the scientists in ISRO, pick up her story. So the teacher will have to do a bit of research, to read it up and make it a little more interesting. You can take a bit of liberty and, add a few things, like if she's from anywhere. I mean, supposing she's from Bihar, say when she goes to, her village, she looks at her friends who have the same opportunities and they're still working at the farm. So you can just add a few things. I mean, take that liberty and make a fuller picture of that person, even if you don't have a lot of information on her. You can always contact and get more information, but make it a more interesting story and, show them the background if you're talking about that person. So if you say a person from Bihar, paint the picture of Bihar, because a lot of kids might not even know what goes in there. If you say, she comes from rural Andhra Pradesh, try to say, what is rural Andhra Pradesh in that story. Because that imagination is very important when you tell story.
Exactly. It's a lot to do about visualization. If your audience can actually visualize the whole scenario, they can feel themselves being inclusive in that environment, and they will be part of your story. And they will be kind of defining their own story while you are telling that story. So that is very interesting part actually. Thank you. Let me try to take a few audience questions. Yeah, there's this question coming from Sashi Prabha. And she's asking, I'm a professor of English at the B&M Institute of Technology, Bangalore. My question is, how can I teach English, grammar, and communication using students?
She can use English, communication, and what was the other thing?
Grammar.
Grammar. Okay. Right. So, English, I think the most obvious ones, like history and English are the two obvious ones that you can certainly do with storytelling. I don't know what exactly might she be teaching at the, to her students. But if we took a look at, because it's stories, what is anything in literature? But yes, grammar will improve with and communication. So, for example, if you are doing a translation, you have short stories in translation. I'm just taking a very, basic example, and you're doing maybe Leo Tolstoy in short stories, maybe in your literature class. That is a story that you're telling, and you can tell it as a story. But then, if the kids are reading it, you don't need to tell it as a story, but you can encourage children to, come up and tell it as a story. And if it's a long story, you can have 5 people tell it, in parts as a story. The grammar bit will come because you are telling a story. So you will learn words, you will learn the pronunciation, you have to get it right. So grammar, they will going to grasp from there. And communication, if they're telling that story, the communication will be there because you have to connect with your audience. You will have to be able to tell it in a manner that the person understands. So whether it's your pitch, if there's no mic, do you want to raise your pitch? Do you want to make it soft? If you talk about an incident and the woman shrieks, you'll be shrieking in that story, one of them will shriek. So, your voice modulation will be there, which is very important in any kind of communication, even if you're doing it otherwise. How are you standing and telling that story? What's your posture? And communication again is also that, how confident are you when you're talking to people? So that communication also comes when you tell a story. You're one person telling a story to a lot of people, so that you have that confidence building, you will eventually do, because you have to stand up and tell that story. You will be memorizing that because you're hopefully not using paper. I hate that when people use paper and kind of tell a story, because it's a disconnect. So they need to remember all the story and kind of make it their own, because you can't mug up and tell a story. It's not a theater, it's not a play, so you can't learn the lines and tell. You have to just remember the story and share it with them. So, but yeah, communication is a big part if you get kids and children or even older people. And I think in college also it's very important because that's the time when they are going out and they will be looking for jobs and they need to be job ready, and communications is a big, a big, a big reason for failure or for, getting through jobs as well. If you can express yourself and how confident you are. So that, yeah, I think in college you must use storytelling.
Thank you, Shagna. I hope that answers Rajiv's question. So there is another question that is being asked by Rudra MKS, and he's asking, I'm a computer science teacher and I teach class 1 to 7. How can I use storytelling in teaching computer science?
Okay, but she didn't say exactly what she wanted to teach, because computers is actually very specific. So you probably can't. I mean, see, there are people who use this tool called arts in education. So they would dance, they would use artwork, art and craft to teach every other subject, and especially the primary school, they use it very effectively. So that's something you can use. But to how do you tell a child about specific terms, that you probably can't do. But you can talk about how computers was kind of how did they come upon computers, how did computers come to India, when did it come to India, what were we doing before that, simple things, how are we calculating, everybody takes up a phone and calculating, what was happening before that, using pen and paper, how is it being developed further, what are the things that have been added to computers later on, and what is the new research that people are talking about. So you can talk about those things, you can talk about people involved with it, you can talk about even like politicians, like if Rajiv Gandhi kind of was really behind it, that we must get computers to India, and people thought that you're going to be taking away jobs, if you have computers, what will other people do. So talk about those kind of incidents. People, children would get interested in that, I think. But yeah, if there's specific things, we have to really work on this.
So I guess a lot of times when you're talking about complex subjects or maybe complex topics, and especially to the elder audience, I would rather say we would be required, the best story would be the how those particular things came into place, how like if you're talking about Pythagoras, so how the Pythagoras theorem was discovered or invented by the Pythagoras himself. So that kind of story, I guess, might be more useful to understand the context of why it was needed and how it helped, right? I guess that kind of story will stick more. That is what I can understand.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because if you talk about Aryabhatta, and you'll say that the zero came only after he came up with it. How are people struggling with it? What were they doing? Because if you talk to people right now, there's no life before zero was invented. So if you say, can you think, and let's give it out to children to kind of think that if there was no zero, how will you calculate big sums or big numbers, etc. And then you can introduce the person who kind of brought it, or kind of thought about it, and how in parallel other countries were also researching it or kind of looking for it, and take them back to that time, what was happening, why did they need to find more solutions, So yeah, I think people's stories are talking about that era, how it was happening then, how is it now, that could really help.
Right. That would be actually very interesting, because obviously I remember the structure of a story is like you introduce the hero and then you put in it that particular hero in a conflict, and unless the conflict is there, you do not feel like there's a story in it.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you have a conflict, then only you will have a resolution. So I guess putting them into the shoes of that person who was facing such issues at that particular point of time when these concepts were introduced or came into kind of discovery. So those kind of ideas would obviously be helpful, I guess, to make the student understand. So thank you for bringing that up. There is one more question that I would like to take is how storytelling is like different than acting in a movie. I guess you mentioned about theater as well in the earlier part, the theater. So in general, how storytelling is different from theater way of doing it or a movie way of doing it, and then teaching.
Yeah, an actor has a script with them, and they're doing only their parts. If you are the hero, or you're the brother of the hero, or whoever you are, you have a specific part and you've got a whole set of dialogues. You learn them and you stand in front of a camera and you tell those. And after that, the director, seeing if this is good or not, the editor will sit kind of your 5 takes you've given, they kind of put it together, make a movie, and it's out. A lot of times you wouldn't even know which take was taken finally, and you wouldn't even remember if you actually gave that take. When we talk about storytelling, usually, and the one that I'm especially talking about, it's usually one person who tells you the whole story. So there's the brother of that hero is me, that hero is also me, and the villain in that is also me. So when I'm telling you that story, I'm telling you the whole thing. So and it's one person, and I have no script, or you may have a script, but you don't necessarily mug it up. So I can't go on the stage and kind of recite something like I was saying that in theater you would do that. You can't shift your words, But in storytelling is a free flow. So what I remember, if I want to add something, I can always do that. So I can say the villain had big moustache and he was 6 feet tall. Another time, I may forget it, or I'm not in the mood of it, or I think it's an audience I'm talking to, where people are generally short in height. I maybe don't want to make him look very tall. So I'd say, the villain was really, short, but he was really, fat, and he had these really mean eyes, So, you would change it, adapt it to your audience, upon your mood and upon your surroundings. So storytelling that way is different from acting, very different from acting, I'd say. And yeah, of course, also about the audience, because then it's like theater or it's like any other performing art, because you're talking to the audience. And you have to, if you're a good storyteller or a performer, any performer will tell you that you have to get the feedback from your audience then and there, whether they're enjoying it or not. Do you want to cut it short? Is there something that is missing? So you have to really grasp it from the audience, if you want to really, perform again. So, so it's adaptability, and you see this, these people really engage listening to you. And at least I have this one kid or this one person who's totally with me in this, story. And some of you, you'll see that they've kind of lost. They're looking at you, but they're looking beyond. So they're also imagining that story with you. So that's the kind of feedback you get, and you know that you're on the right path. And if you think everybody's scratching their head or eating popcorn or, just kind of talking to each other, you're telling a very bad story. And that's a feedback that in acting you won't get right away.
Yes, it's just a feedback mechanism, and it's a kind of parallel. While you are telling a story, obviously the audience is living that story. And the same point of time in a classroom as well, when you are explaining something as a concept with a story, you kind of get a feedback from the students by their eyes, by their look, if they're actually understanding it or not. So it's really good, I would say, if the way storytelling is done, and rather than using something of an acting that we're using in movies or theater in a classroom. I guess that answers Vibhushan Prasad query. I think it was his question. So thank you for putting that question, Vibhushan. So let me take one more last question. This is again from Vibhushan, and he's asking, can we use, I think it's a different kind of question, but let me rephrase it. Can we connect with the help of the folklore, say Chandrakanta, Shakuntala, or maybe some TV serial fiction as well in teaching?
Take an inspiration
already
from.
There is a base there with the audience. Say if you are talking about Ramayana, start with something in Ramayana. Obviously, there's a base with the audience, so you don't have to build in with all the details, and you can directly move into the complex concept.
Okay, I don't get this question very well, Prakhar. So, is the question like, can you tell folklore in storytelling?
Yeah, you can. The question is telling stories which are more towards the folklore, or kind of a story which is somewhat known to the audience already, is better idea while teaching.
Okay. See, if you're using it in teaching, it has to be related to what you're teaching. Of course, if it's a moral science class or something like that, you can tell them any story that you feel like. I love telling folk tales. I love that. I primarily would do that. But of course, like Prakhar said, I do tell stories of people like Mahatma Gandhi and others. We're doing a whole series of 75 years of independence, where we're doing unsung heroes of freedom fighters. So would do that, but I personally love folk stories, because you can tell so much through that and yet not tell them. So, and there's so many of them all across the country. So you pick up a story from Odisha, and you tell them that story, you know, it will have a lot of cultural influence. So, and of course, that depends on the storyteller. So I would like to tell them what happens in Orissa. They grow a lot of rice, you know. So this woman was standing in, you know, knee deep water, sowing the seeds of rice, and there was a snake that kind of just went past. And it could be a folk tale, which you don't have that details. You know, if she was standing actually in the field or she was standing at home, you can fill that details and talk to them about that state, or tell them about that area. So that's use that. You know, they will. I wouldn't say there will be a moral to the story, but there would be an understanding to different things. And that's again the storyteller or the teacher can use. What do you want to talk about? If you want to talk about gender bias, you can certainly see that, you know, and it doesn't have to be the whole story is about gender bias, but somewhere you talk about it. You know, that the girl wanted to go and visit the village fair and she wasn't allowed, and the boy went, you know. So you can put those kind of gender discriminations or bias in there yourself. So it's for you to see what you want to talk about, you know, through that story, and add those elements. Sometimes those elements already exist, but yeah, it's not recorded history, so you can always add those elements. But folklore, folk stories, I personally really like them. And it's also a good way of, you know, sharing it to the next generation. Otherwise, we're going to always lose it. So share them in your, even if, you know, if it's a maths class and you think they're just bored of listening to maths, you can just tell them a story that you want to, you know, kind of share, and has some relevance. You know, if Afghanistan war is happening and you have some relatable thing that you want children to kind of take back, you can tell them an Afghani folktale, so to say.
Thank you. I think that pretty much answers Vibhushan's question. He has also kind of acknowledged that answer and with a thanks. So thank you. So with that, I would like to conclude the discussion. So thank you, Shabna, for all the answers and clearing our doubts. It was indeed a very insightful talk. We appreciate you sparing time from your busy schedule and making yourself available today with us. I'm sure this will help many educators that are there with us today, as well as that will be seeing these videos later as well, in exploring the world of storytelling while teaching, and help them, and this will help them achieve great results for themselves and their students. Any closing comments that you would like to give to our audience?
Yes, no, I'd like, you know, that you had a lot of participants. I see it's 150 or something. You know, so you're part of this because you're interested in it. I would really want you to explore it. You know, and I still see that one of the teachers has been saying that, you know, how do I motivate children to tell stories? You have to tell a story yourself, you know, and I would also bring there's lots of stuff on YouTube on storytelling, but you know, the personal connect when a person comes and tells a story is very important. So if you can tell, or if you know somebody who can tell, you know, better, introduce that to the class and then tell them, you know, why don't we tell more stories? So you people are interested in it, please keep that interest going and tell stories, listen to stories, get your children, get yourself also, you know, to share stories and listen to stories. That's all. Yeah.
Thanks, Shabana. It was indeed an honor and pleasure to have you here with us. To conclude, I would like to leave you all with a short, simple story. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, teachers told tantalizing, creative stories that piqued the interest of the novice mind into learning challenging concepts in various domains. These stories ignited a light that formed lasting memories so that they could be applied to solve everyday problems, ensure survival, and pass on this wisdom to the other generations. This is a story of all of us. True for yesterday, true for today, and will be true with your help for the days to come. With that, I, Prakhar, sign off. Thank you.